Clash Royale has exploded in popularity in 2025, reaching new peaks that nobody could have imagined. Lots of people, including myself, have criticized Supercell in recent years for taking the game in a bad direction that would lead to its demise, but recently, Clash Royale has had a surge of players and a spike in revenue that's been more than all of the other Supercell games combined. The game had been looking very bleak in 2023 and 2024 with the horrible metas and nerfs to progression and the devs ignoring the player base, so how did 2025 turn things around? What happened that led to Clash Royale becoming so popular again? Today, we're going to go back and look at Clash Royale in 2025, the updates that were released, the new content, the metas, the controversies, and more. Back in January, we got a massive set of balance changes, changing 27 cards in just one set, which is the biggest set of balance changes pretty much ever. It was nice to see so many annoying cards get toned down since the meta had been pretty awful in 2024. Not saying 2025 metas have been a treat, but at the time it was nice to see Evolved P.E.K.K.A finally toned down, Goblin Machine reworked into a viable card, and Witch received the first balance change she's received in years, helping her out ever so slightly. There were a set of balance changes every single month this year. Clash Royale hasn't had a set of balance changes every single month since 2020, and every set has included a fairly decent amount of cards. With the influx of new evolutions every month, balancing more often has become necessary. Even though the meta has been crazy though, it's nice in a way because there's always something fresh every season. The meta never really feels stale. I think if you're not a super competitive player, it's nice to see these new mechanics brought to the game, even if they're a little broken sometimes. And they've been making evolutions easier to get this year. We now get 2 wild shards each month from the free side of Pass Royale, 3 shards of an evolution they haven't given away yet in an event each month, and in recent months they've been giving an additional 2 bonus shards of an evolution they haven't given away yet. Not even including the fact you can occasionally get more shards and evolutions from mystery boxes. If you play regularly, you can actually keep up pretty well. You just won't really get to play the new evolutions when they're broken. Also, I wanted to mention the fact they gave a lot of free evolutions back in July. Archers, Electro Dragon, Wizard, and Tesla. Not sure why they did this, but it was very helpful for a lot of players. They also gave away the Hunter Evolution on Black Friday and the Furnace Evo for New Year's. You need evolutions to compete, so I hope Supercell continues to give full evolutions away occasionally. I don't expect them to give all of them for free all the time because at the end of the day, this is a free game that makes their money by selling these, and I think this is a better form of monetization than just blatantly adding new levels. The team also gave away the Valkyrie Evolution back in March for the anniversary celebration, meaning 7 full evolutions were given away this year. But this one was actually controversial because Supercell didn't just give this evolution away, they actually put it to a community vote. That's right, this year Supercell let the players decide what the anniversary gift would be. You couldn't just pick for yourself though, the community voted for one gift for everybody. The choices were between the Valkyrie Evolution, Wizard Evolution, Book of Legendaries, and a 5-star Lucky Drop. And what you wanted would be very dependent. If you didn't have the Valkyrie or Wizard evolution, you probably wanted one of them, and the community seemed to lean towards the Valkyrie because of the 2, she was the only one who was really competitively viable. But if you already had these evolutions, you'd probably want one of the other items. The 5-star Lucky Box was appealing to players who already had the evolutions unlocked, but a lot of players thought this was the worst choice because there was a greater than 50% chance you would get a common, rare, or epic book of cards, and a 17% chance you would just get the Book of Legendaries anyway. Books weren't even that appealing anymore because if you had your cards at level 14, you would just get 5,000 elite wildcards from them, which was 1/10 of a card upgrade. The only reason people wanted this really was for the 4% chance you would get a full evolution from it, which is why if you didn't have the Valkyrie or Wizard evolution, you wouldn't really want this, because why take a 4% chance for an evolution when you can get a guaranteed one? If you did have the Evos though, you may as well have taken the gamble. The Valkyrie evolution barely won over the 5-star Lucky Box, and half the community was pissed about it. Players who had bought the evolution would just get 6,000 elite wild cards, which put a damper on Clash Royale's anniversary for them. If anyone's curious though, I did vote for the Valkyrie evolution, as I do not spend money on this game. They did give away the Wizard evolution a few months later in July though, so it makes me wonder if we had voted for the Wizard if we would have just gotten Valkyrie in July instead, making this choice an illusion. I did like the anniversary celebration of Clash Royale in general this year though. In addition to the free gift, we saw the temporary Retro Royale game mode with only the cards released in 2016 and 2017 playable. No champions, no evolutions, no tower troops, just classic Clash Royale. It was a nice change of pace for sure, but I think there could definitely be some improvements made to this mode. Maybe asking for the cards to be balanced how they were back in the old days is a bit much to ask, but they could still do a bit more to make it feel retro. One cool thing I think they could do is bring back the old card icons for cards who have had them changed. They changed the Barbarians card icon for a single season in the past, so it's certainly something they're not opposed to doing. Also, unlike last year's event, this event should be level capped. There was no level 16 in 2016, so bring down the max level to 13 for this mode and let players enjoy it. They should even bring back the heal spell for the Retro Royale mode and have it balanced how it was upon release if they do bring back Retro Royale again. It would be very nostalgic, and to be honest, I don't think it would be broken. It was only broken with Three Musketeers back in the day, and Three Musketeers are so much different now than they were back in 2017, so I don't even think it'd be an issue, but we'll get into more of that later. Clash Royale is going to be a decade old next year, so I hope they do something extravagant for it. Going more into the first update of the year in March, it was very controversial and widely regarded as one of the worst Clash Royale updates. This was very notable because it changed the entire chest system as we've always known it. It practically just got rid of chests as a whole. We already kind of knew something like this was coming at the end of 2024 when they announced that chest keys were being removed. What replaced it was 3 mystery boxes that would reset each day. You would be able to unlock them instantly after winning them, but it just didn't feel like a lot. There was no Mega Lightning or Royal Wild chest to look forward to anymore. You might just get a 5-star lucky drop from a 1 or 2-star drop to get an overpowered item. You would also get a bonus item with each lucky drop, which could include some gold or common, rare, or epic cards. They eventually added a 4th lucky box to this pool, and then tried an interesting experiment come August, where some players would get 3 lucky drops and 3 silver chests, and others would get a lightning, gold, and 2 silver chests. Having some regular chests back in the daily rewards was nice, but come September they found the results to be inconclusive, so they went back to giving everyone 4 lucky boxes. They apparently wanted to learn which rewards feel the most fun and exciting to earn, and use that feedback to shape the future of battle rewards. It felt really random, and all it really led to is players being upset that chests were removed again. In addition to this removal, the season shot was also removed, which was devastating for many players, as that had been a widely beloved feature. It was really good for progression and obtaining premium rewards. They were going to start distributing these rewards in special events now, which take a lot of grinding to complete. A lot of people still want to see the season shot return. If you go on just about any official Clash Royale post on YouTube, you'll see people clamoring for Supercell to bring this back. The player base will not let Supercell forget about it. I found it humorous they started doing these segments in TV Royale where they respond to community feedback, and they've yet to respond to any comment about people wanting the season shot back. Banner tokens and the banner box were also removed in this update, which was kind of a shame as it was a nice consistent way to earn banners. Also, this was a special reward you could earn by completing the 3rd set of mastery tasks. With the removal of this currency, they replaced the rewards with gold, which just feels generic, especially since you didn't need gold for leveling up your cards to level 15. In addition to this, they drastically reduced the number of gems you earned from masteries in the June update. And they haven't even added any new tasks since June of 2023, despite every card that doesn't have one saying they're getting one soon. Daily tasks were also removed, as well as the free Royal Wild chest and Legendary Wild card from the free side of Pass Royale. Also, over 1,000 gems were removed from the Diamond Pass. This update really felt like it was just making progression worse and removing things. It changed everything we knew and didn't really help players whatsoever. They claimed to be redistributing these rewards, but that's never what it feels like. I'm not even sure what the appealing part of this update was supposed to be for players. There wasn't really a big feature added, it was mostly just progression changes. Another thing to point out is with the removal of season tokens, challenge rewards have felt lackluster. Instead of getting a boatload of season tokens to spend on extra cards or shards or any other useful thing we may need, we get 500 gold per win with a couple of banners and an ult emote thrown in there. If you don't care about cosmetics, there's really no reason to play special challenges anymore. And finally, I wanted to talk about one final flaw with this update. Thanks to the progression changes, it would be possible to complete the tutorial with less than 8 cards, making it impossible to jump into battle, essentially soft-locking the player because they had no way of earning rewards. Kinda just goes to show how rushed and unpolished these updates are sometimes. Next, let's move into the June update. This is an update where I felt like they actually added some decent content. First, we got a trophy road rework. Rather than getting to 9,000 trophies and then turning into casual 1v1, they added seasonal arenas. They redistributed some of the rewards to appear in this mode, and it was kind of frustrating because now if you wanted to maximize your rewards, you had to grind 2 different modes that both at its core were just regular 1v1. To me, it felt kind of pointless to have this and a ranked mode. Especially since the rewards were just redistributed from ranked, it's basically just adding extra battles I have to play to earn the same rewards as before. This update also removed 2v2 and global tournaments. Although 2v2 did eventually come back, to this day 6 months later we still haven't had a global tournament. It's a shame because it was the only free way for players to try out any deck with any evolutions at equal level. They said they will return in a future update though, so we'll have to wait and see if they stick to their word. I wanted to highlight one of the global tournaments we did get this year though back in March. I suggested this in my 2024 recap and was so happy to see this actually come to fruition. I'm talking about card bans, allowing the players to not have to see certain cards. It didn't really feel like many meta cards were banned though, rather a lot of mid-ladder menaces. We actually have data results which shows which cards got the most votes. For some reason, not every card was in the vote, only 32 were, so we can't see how a card like Prince would have settled out, but it's cool to have some real data on what the most hated cards are. Unsurprisingly, Mega Knight got the most votes, and finally, P.E.K.K.A got the second most votes, of which many Mega Knight players said they only voted for because it countered their Mega Knight. It's really fun playing Clash Royale with certain cards being removed from the pool and just observing how the meta adjusts. I think it would be cool next time they just took it a step further and let us ban half the cards in the game. Leave us with the least hated and underused set of cards and see what happens. Also in the June update, they reworked Classic and Grand Challenges to give one-time rewards and no chest. Also, they disallowed you from restarting them more than once per season if you get to 12 wins. And now they also reset regardless of whether you're in the middle of one, so you can't just take it at your own pace and take a break anymore when playing them. With the rework to Grand Challenges and the absence of global tournaments, it's been tough to find good things to spend gems on. So what was the point of this update? It was mostly just progression changes yet again. Well, there was a shining light, being the addition of Merge Tactics. Merge Tactics is a completely new game mode inspired by the retired Supercell game Clash Mini. In this game, you lay out troops on a board during a preparation period, then once that's over, you watch you and your opponent's troops attack each other, and whoever's troops die first loses that round. I've never played Clash Mini, so I can't say much about that game or the differences between that and Merge Tactics, but I can say I'm a pretty big fan of Merge Tactics personally. It's very different from normal Clash gameplay, but it's a nice breath of fresh air. It's nice to crank out a few games of this if I'm just out on a walk, because unlike ranked or clan war matches, I feel like I don't need to give my full focus and attention to the game. I don't need to look at the screen 100% of the time during a Merge Tactics round, and the punishment for losing a game isn't that bad. Also, levels matter far less, as the damage and health are only about 2% different I believe instead of 10%. It's a much more casual experience, and I think Clash Royale really needs some of that with how these recent updates have been, which we'll go over in a bit. They even keep things fresh with new balance changes, troops, and modifiers every season. And I don't think it will get removed, at least anytime soon, because they are selling skins that are $20 each. They couldn't get rid of skins that people bought with real money, right? I guess the one main criticism I have is that the game is extremely luck-based. There's obviously strategies to learn and ways to increase your odds of winning, but I swear there are just some games where I can't do anything because I get bad troop options. I don't really think there's much that can be done about that though. It's a fundamental part of the game. I would love to see more stuff like this added in the future, as stuff like this is far better than the Goblin Queen's Journey. Another cool thing I liked that we got this year is the Clan Voyage, which is essentially a reinvented version of the old clan chest. You work together with your clan to collect crowns which combine to get some extra chests. The rewards are nothing special and barely worth getting in my opinion. Definitely think they should keep this and expand upon it though, as it could be very fun. Next, I want to go over some of my personal favorite balance changes of 2025. As I mentioned, we got a lot of balance changes this year, and some were definitely unexpected. Some of the changes I liked were simple ones and ones I've actually suggested in videos before, like the Fire Spirit's jump range being reverted back to 2.5 tiles, and the Log's crown tower and base damage being severely reduced. It was also nice to see the Miner's hit speed being increased. Log and Miner I always felt Supercell let be too strong for way too long, so I liked seeing them not be afraid to tone them down. We also saw the P.E.K.K.A's range being decreased from melee long to medium, which I think was very necessary. If I had a nickel for every time the P.E.K.K.A's range was decreased from long to medium, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. It was also weird to see them taking a crack at nerfing Tornado again, since they failed to nerf it in the past due to the graveyard interaction. They were smart about it this time though, nerfing its duration just enough so only 1 tick would come out instead of 2, so it would still one-shot skeletons, but not be enough to kill spear goblins or deal any significant amount of damage to other units. Another significant balance change was the minions buff back in August, where they received a range increase. It's always been kind of unclear whether minions were a ranged or melee unit, as it seems to have changed over the years. However, with the increase to their range, it clearly defines them as ranged units. The last significant normal balance change I liked that I wanted to mention was the Skeleton's nerf in October, where the unit's hit speed was increased from 1 to 1.1 seconds. The stats of the base skeleton unit had not been changed since May 2016, 9 years ago, so this was a pretty big surprise. Obviously, if you change the stats of the skeleton unit, you're not just affecting skeletons, but skeleton army, witch, tombstone, graveyard, and many more, which is why the stats are never changed. That's almost always been a rule, but I'm not sure why they felt the need to uphold this consistent standard because it was blatantly broken back in April. And that leads us into the balance changes I didn't like. Goblins are another unit present in a lot of different cards, and they were strong in a couple of them, so Supercell tones them down by increasing their first hit attack time. But they only applied it to the goblins in the Goblins and Goblin Gang cards. They left the Goblin Barrel, Drill, and other goblins alone, making them inconsistent even though they're the same troop. For balancing purposes, it made sense, but it seems like such a strange time to break this rule they had never broken before. Like, the balance between the Musketeer and Three Musketeers was always such a struggle because they insisted on keeping the stats of the individual unit perfectly consistent between those two cards, even though it made it impossible to have both of them be balanced. Three Musketeers had been such a disruption for years, and you're telling me they could have just changed the stats of the units in one of the cards all along? We'll get more into Three Musketeers later, I just wanted to point out how unusual this was. Goblin Giant was another card that needed major nerfs earlier this year, and in October they completely obliterated it by decreasing its health, backpack range, and backpack first hit attack time. But they could have increased the goblins it spawned first hit attack time to make it consistent and properly nerf it. They also obliterated the Goblin Machine again, decreasing its health by a big chunk and its rocket by almost a fourth of what it used to deal. We haven't seen them even remotely relevant since they were nerfed in October, and it makes me wonder what the future beholds for them. I said in my 2024 recap that I'd be interested to see how cards released in 2024 that weren't doing well would get changed and be integrated into the meta in 2025. And it looks like I'm saying the same thing about Goblin Machine for 2026. Same with the Goblin Curse. Ever since they removed its damage amplification in September, it hasn't felt the same. It's been severely underused in recent months, likely needing some attention if it's going to find its way back into the meta. Personally, it just doesn't feel like a card like this is going to work at 2 Elixir. I think it needs some sort of rework to deal a lot more damage, but be 3 Elixir. They have pretty much confirmed the damage amplification isn't coming back, but I don't think it necessarily needs it. It'll be interesting to see what happens in 2026. Maybe the damage amplification can just be Goblin Curse's evolution. The last and worst balance change of all this year though has got to be the December 2025 Electro Spirit nerf. Okay, in terms of balancing I suppose this change was fine, but it ruins the card's perfect 5-year streak of never receiving a balance change. I feel like this was a big part of the card's identity, and a lot of people were clearly upset about it, including myself. I suppose it had to happen sooner or later, but it sure is a bummer for people like me who are way too invested in card histories. At least the Hog Rider has a good streak going, not receiving a balance change in the last 8 years. I also mentioned a lot of cards in my 2024 recap that had been absent from the meta for years and needed some major buffs or reworks to become relevant again, and Supercell has actually reworked some of these cards. Witch, for example, got a buff in January and an evolution in May, which brought her back, and she's been doing great ever since. But now I want to cover some of the more creative reworks. Goblin Hoe was changed from a passive spawner to a defensive spawner. It was changed so that it would only spawn units when a visible enemy unit was within 6 tiles of it. This is genuinely one of the best reworks I think a card has received in years. It has needed a bit of toning down since, but overall the card is in a much healthier position today than it's ever been. Then we have the Furnace rework, which changed it from a building into a troop. I kind of like this rework, but it's so far from what Furnace was originally. I suppose it's healthier than it was before, but it still feels weird to me. Not only did they rework it, but they released an evolution for it at the exact same time, and the evolution was insanely overpowered, leading to the Furnace combined with its evolved variant being played in 98% of top ladder decks, which is the highest usage a card has pretty much ever had. The release was a total disaster, but it settled into an alright spot. I would like to dive deeper into the details and history of these reworks in its own video at some point, but I had to mention them now because they were a big part of the year. The Three Musketeers also got a major rework where they were officially separated into their own unique troop. They got a whole redesign and everything, so they're obviously different from the Solo Musketeer, unlike the Goblins. They have more health than the Solo Musketeer, deal more damage, and have a melee attack they can use when troops get close. Clearly a lot of time and effort was put into this change, and I applaud the balancing team for another successful rework. One rework that was not good whatsoever though was the Cannon Cart rework. Cannon Cart used to have a shield, and when its shield broke it would become a building, but now it would be combined into one major health bar and just become a building when it lost half of its health. This made it a lot more fragile despite receiving a small health buff to compensate for this. This was overall done for technical reasons, but it wasn't given proper compensation for what was obviously a nerf. I sort of get why they did this rework, but ultimately I felt it did more harm than good, and the card never really recovered from it. Another seemingly forgotten feature in 2025 has been Tower Troops. We have not gotten a single new tower troop all year, and the ones that exist have not been treated well. Every single one of them got nerfs I feel like they didn't need. It feels like whenever they're even vaguely relevant, Supercell ensures that to no longer be the case. I don't mind Tower Princess being the most popular tower troop, but it would be nice to at least see these other ones have a place. I feel like I'm in the minority as someone who likes tower troops, but that clearly doesn't seem to be the widespread opinion, so I'm not going to bother advocating much. Next, let's talk about new cards. This year, we only got 5, which is less than in 2024, but they're all solid additions in my opinion. We kicked off the year with the Rune Giant, who had the mechanic of being able to boost the damage of other troops' third attack. Not percentage, but a set number, so cards that attacked fast benefited more from it. It was alright in the earlier months of the year, but since the devastating nerf in March, it's rotted at the bottom, seeing no competitive play since. Next, we got the Berserker, the first common card since 2020, who feels like it was designed to synergize with the Rune Giant, as it attacked very fast but dealt little damage. This card I feel is pretty balanced and just a solid addition overall. In April, we got the Boss Bandit, which is a 6 elixir champion based off the 3 elixir legendary. Good lord, is this card annoying. This card definitely made me pull a few hairs, but I feel now it's a lot more balanced. The next card they released I think is genuinely one of the most unique cards they've ever added because it's basically 2 cards in one. It's a 6 elixir flying ranged unit, but it's also a 3 elixir ground melee unit. If you have 6 elixir or more when you play the flying variant. If you have 3 to 5 elixir, you get the ground variant. I would love to see this mechanic brought to other cards in the future because it adds a whole new layer. The final new card we got this year was the Vine Spell, a 3 elixir lingering spell that freezes units in place and also has the unique attribute of bringing air units to the ground, allowing ground targeting troops to attack them. It's a really cool idea and I think it's a perfect addition to the spell roster. Glad to see even with new evolutions every month, they're still making the effort to release new cards. They released 12 evolutions this year, but rather than going over every one, I'll just go over my most and least favorite ones. My least favorite one has got to be the Furnace. It has nothing to do with balancing issues or it being annoying, it just feels so lame to me. All it does is spawn extra fire spirits. It doesn't do anything creative or cool. My favorite one is the Skeleton Army. Skeleton Army had been underperforming for a while leading up to this point because there are so many popular splash cards in the meta, but this evolution minimizes its vulnerabilities. With the evolution, the Skeleton Army spawns with a general, and none of the skeletons can die until the general goes. But the nice part is you can still damage the skeletons before the general dies, so that when he does go, they immediately disappear with him. And troops don't target skeletons that were already killed. This was one of the cards that really needed an evolution, and it was executed perfectly. Hopefully in 2026 we'll see more just like this. Now we need to get into the most recent update of 2025, the Heroes update. I feel like I say this with just about every update, but this was one of the most hated updates in Clash Royale history. The big new feature of this update was Heroes, which are basically new variations of old cards with new abilities. It's very strange of them to add something like this because that's essentially what evolutions are. The difference here is that the abilities are like champion abilities. They cost elixir to use, but like with evolutions, there's no downside to them. You don't have to use the abilities, it's just an extra option. Like with evolutions, you can only use 2 of them per deck, but I think that's crazy considering there's only 4 of them out right now. It really feels like we should have only gotten 1 slot to start off with, but this problem will fix itself with time. Now they actually share slots with champions, so I suppose champions would have been dead without the 2nd slot, but this just gives the option for people to use multiple broken heroes in one deck right off the bat when many players will struggle to even get a couple of these. You can also just play 2 champions in one deck now, which is absolutely wild. It really feels like the champions rarity has been completely devalued after this update. To prevent a potential 2-card cycle issue, they did change the way champions work just a few months ago. They basically made it so champions weren't removed from your cycle anymore when playing, but now only the most recent champion would be able to use its ability. This change felt random at the time, but the Heroes update makes it clear why they did this. With 2 hero slots in addition to 2 evolution slots, the game feels much more pay to win as it's almost necessary to fill all 4 slots to have a fighting chance in competitive play. Heroes have the same issue evolutions have. They have no downside, and since not every card has one, it isn't fair and basically forces you to limited options. I don't know why they felt the need to release a feature like this when there are still so many cards that don't have evolutions yet. Also, it doesn't seem like evolutions are going to be released every season anymore, as the Pass Royale gives heroes instead of evos now. December 2025 is the first season in 2.5 years we didn't get a new evolution. I don't know if that means evolutions are going to be a faded out feature like so many other things, or if we're just going to get them less often. I really hope they don't abandon evolutions because it's just going to feel incomplete if they don't give them to all the cards. One other thing I wanted to talk about that I really hate is the way you unlock heroes. With evolutions, it's pretty simple. You get 6 shards, but with heroes you have to collect 200 hero fragments and open a hero box. This wouldn't be so bad if not for the fact you can get repeats from this, and when you get a repeat, you only get 60 fragments back. I really hate how progression has become so luck-based. Okay, so this was actually changed recently so that duplicates would no longer appear unless you had every hero unlocked, which is certainly a positive change, but it's still annoying that it wasn't like this from the start. In addition to the hero box, we also got an evolution box, however, this was only obtainable once through a special event so far. I honestly think they're going to phase out free evolution wild shards and replace them with the evolution boxes, which will be luck-based, and then release a few evolutions throughout the year as special offers. Because if they keep giving out 2 wild shards a month and only release a few evolutions throughout the year, everyone will just use their free shards on the new evos and they won't make any money off them. I hope I'm wrong about that, but I think continuing to give 5 shards a month for free plus evo boxes just seems too generous for the Clash Royale devs. I can probably get adjusted to heroes, but the other big part of this update I despise, and many others feel the same way. The addition of level 16. I think we all knew this was eventually coming, but the demand for this was about as much as the Elite Barbarian hut. I've pretty much said everything about new levels when I was talking about level 15, and my thoughts and opinions have not changed. A new level obviously adds nothing for the players. It just makes the game even more pay to win. But it's so scummy to me in this day and age with evolutions and heroes and them charging $20 for merge tactics skins. They still feel the need to monetize the game even further by adding something that adds nothing. Clash Royale has been doing really well in terms of revenue in 2025, becomes Supercell's highest earning game. And this is the thanks the community gets? After level 15, they didn't see a punishment for adding the new level, so they've clearly gotten comfortable just doing whatever they want because they know despite the immense backlash they will get, people will still buy. One small thing I'm happy about is the removal of Elite Wildcards and going back to the old leveling system we had. Elite wildcards were basically just an illusion of making it seem like level 15 wouldn't be a pain to get, but it was pretty transparent that it was just to make magic items more worthless and so that maxed out players stashing tons of resources wouldn't be able to max again so quickly. However, at the cost of going back to the old system for all levels, they removed books of cards. It's really not a Clash Royale update these days unless they include a nerf to progression. They converted any books you had into wildcards, and any elite wildcards were converted into gems. The real scummy part about this though is that they would not reveal the conversion rate before the update dropped, so players were unclear whether or not they should have used them or waited to have them converted to gems. These are resources that we earn and some people pay real money for, and they have the decency to remove them and not tell us exactly what we're getting in return. It's the least they could do. We ended up getting 1 gem for every 20 elite wildcards, so knowing this information, leveling up legendaries and champions before the update was the best way to go, while waiting on upgrading your epics, rares, and commons. So, with elite wildcards being gone, what do players get when they receive cards they already have maxed? Well, it's a new currency called crystals, and all you can buy with this currency is cosmetics. I think this is pretty cool, but there's one major problem I have with this, and that's that we already have something like this. Back in 2018, we got a new currency called Star Points, which nowadays you unlock at a low level, but back then you only got them when receiving overflow cards. It was something to collect in the late game after maxing your account, and you used them exclusively to buy new skins for your cards. This feature has basically been long abandoned, as they haven't added any new star skins since 2021. In fact, the Spirit Empress card doesn't even have a level 1 star level. This exact concept was just reinvented, and the reason they didn't just utilize star points is pretty obvious. Long-term players have millions of star points, so utilizing this currency would make them less money. They had to create something nobody had. At this point though, they may as well standardize them and just get rid of star points and convert any existing star points into crystals. I predict in 2026 we're gonna see the removal of star points. I'm surprised they lasted this long. I mean heck, you don't even get any star points when leveling up your cards to 16. I feel like that's a clear sign they're trying to phase them out. Another thing that's bothersome is that they didn't even bother to do a Slash Royale before this update like with 14 and 15. It would have been really cool if they did an event where they allowed players to upgrade cards with 25,000 elite wildcards instead of 50k just before the update to help players who weren't maxed out yet catch up. But why be generous when you can be greedy? They did cap ranked at level 15 for 6 months to give players time to level up their cards, but didn't cap Trophy Road or Clan Wars. And not capping Trophy Road was devastating because they made it so you had to grind 3 arenas to maximize your chest rewards if you were at the top, giving an immediate incentive to grind, which is pretty much impossible to do without max levels. they also added a separate emote shop completely different from the gem one, where now you can pay $5 for special emotes. Gems are a premium currency, and I thought 250 gems was a fair price. Having two separate shops for them just feels messy. So overall, why did Clash Royale become so successful again in 2025? It seems like so many changes were just made to worsen the experience for so many people. Well, as pay-to-win as this game can get sometimes, the core gameplay has certainly stayed interesting. With multiple new cards, evolutions, major reworks to long dead cards, and heroes being released every month, there's always something fresh and new to look forward to. From 2020 to 2022, it could get boring sometimes because new cards were infrequent and there weren't really any major updates that changed the core gameplay. But for the last couple years, that hasn't been an issue. Another major factor that many know is Jinxie coming back to Clash Royale and making content for the game, bringing it in the spotlight for millions of people. He's been a very influential content creator who some attribute Clash Royale's comeback solely to. A lot of his viewers are probably younger, who weren't even old enough to remember the launch of Clash Royale 9 years ago, so to them, it's a brand new game, which he makes look incredibly fun and appealing. And I have to agree that even if the meta's broken sometimes, and even if the game's pay to win, it's still fun at its core, and that's why I've personally stuck with it for 10 years, and likely will for many more. So what's the plan for 2026? What can we expect for next year, and what am I hoping for? Well, we don't have a roadmap for next year, at least not yet, but I'm sure one thing we can expect is at least one new hero every month. We've already gotten confirmation for Hero Wizard and Ice Golem. This will be the main new appeal for the Pass Royale, so I expect them to go through with it the entire year, and the meta will likely revolve around them. I imagine only cards that are single unit troops will get hero variants, so I expect other cards like Prince, Balloon, Giant Skeleton, Battle Healer, and Mega Minion to get them too. And maybe even buildings. I just can't imagine how multi-troop units like Goblin Gang would make something like this work, unless each hero swarm gets a captain where only that specific troop gets the ability. I certainly wouldn't expect a spell like Zap, who's on the map for literally half a second, to get a hero. I hope that we'll also get something in the 5th tab on the main menu that's been said to be under construction for about 6 months now. Really hope it's not another 3rd tier mastery coming soon situation. Speaking of 3rd tier masteries, since banner tokens are gone, I'd like the 3rd tier of masteries to give crystals, just so not all of the rewards are gold. Probably not likely to happen, but it would be nice, especially since it seems like masteries have been forgotten about. I'd also just like to see a new permanent game mode added to the main screen. We got merge tactics in 2025, which is great, so let's see something else new to spice up the gameplay. I've been seeing some really interesting Chinese game modes popping up that aren't available in the main game that would be really cool to see, so hopefully we can get some of those. I really want to see a mode where you have to defend waves of troops against a bot, and the waves get more and more difficult, and the more waves you survive, the more rewards you get. I don't personally believe we'll get anything huge in 2026. I think it will mostly continue 2025, where we get a new variation of a card every single month, probably a few progression nerfs, and some temporary fun modes. I think it'll be far from the best year, but I don't think it'll be too terrible either. Before December at least, we actually had a pretty diverse meta after the October balance changes. But anyway, that's my review of Clash Royale in 2025. A pretty decent year overall in terms of gameplay, but ruined by so many horrible progression nerfs. But let me know what you think about the state of Clash Royale. Is the game heading in a good direction, or is it on the brink of doom? I'll be hoping to post more frequently in 2026, so let me know what topics you'd like me to cover. Anyway though, thank you for listening, and have a great 2026.